welcome to this episode, this segment on the series of interviews we are doing with the leaders of the trade union movement, coinciding with the national conference, the conference of the Center of Indian Trade Unions, that is the CITU. Yeah. I have with me Comrade K.N. Umesh, Secretary of the CITU. He is now, for many years, he's been active and is well known in Karnataka, but now he's based in Delhi and he's working with the center of the CITU.
Yeah.
In this segment, we will discuss the challenges in organizing workers in modern manufacturing, especially large and medium industries. As we know, the large and medium industries segment has undergone a transformation in the last 3 decades, especially with the onset of liberalization. Particularly, the challenges are great because of the process of outsourcing, which has resulted in the contractualization of the workforce. Large segments of the workforce, including those in government and many other parts of the large industries, are now in what we can call precarious terms of employment. And Comrade Umesh is well positioned to discuss these with us because he has spent the last 16-17 years with the trade union movement. He's been a full-timer, he's been fully devoted to this cause, and so I will start with first the most obvious and the most important ones. One, that is the nature and the character of the industry, of large-scale industrial activity, has changed dramatically in the last 3 decades. And what are the challenges posed by this fragmentation of the production process? We know that in the past, for many decades, the nature of factory production was that it was in large-scale industrial sites where thousands of workers would be employed in a single place. That has changed. And the fragmentation of this has also resulted in the nature of employment, the terms of employment also changing very significantly. And these make conditions of employment very precarious. So obviously it is very challenging for the trade union movement to organize such activity, because when the terms of employment are very precarious, it is difficult to get workers to join unions. And so I would like to ask Mr. Umesh to tell us how has the CITU, the trade union movement in general, and the CITU in particular, coped and dealt with these challenges?
No, actually the thing is that post-liberalization period that we are seeing, as earlier we used to have a large-scale factories where there used to be thousands of workers, and most of the workers used to be on regular roles of the companies and factories. And this is how industrial revolution also started. In the beginning, when this factory production process started, we know that they used to bring independent craftsmen or guild worker to a common place and put them together, and it was this sort of a cooperation that was there. That's how they used to do.
Yes.
In that process, actually, whatever the skill that they had independently, that was done away. They used to do routine work. And then later on, we see that in the process of this industrial revolution, that when the division of labor took place, then every labor was made to do a specific nature of job. And they used to operate the machines and all. And this is how the process developed and started. And in the process, what happened, in the inbuilt capitalist system that is there, where they get huge surplus through this production process, and this surplus actually created crisis within the system. And to come out of that crisis, they tried so many things, that this and all, and they could not come out, because crisis is there inbuilt within the capitalist system and the mode of production and the ownership of productive forces that is there because of that means of production and all.
Yeah.
So to to come out of that process, they came out with a solution which says that we will farm out. And they will not do every process of production under one roof.
Correct.
They will just outsource it. And in the process, we see that as this neoliberal era started, since maybe 80s, that too particularly in India from 1991 or like that, if you say. In these 30 to 40 years, we see that number of regular workforce in the factory, in the shop floor, has drastically come down.
Yes. And this is not even just true of private enterprise.
No.
Even the government is doing this.
Public as well as private.
Yes.
And they say that outsourcing itself is the way
Yes.
of business,
Yes.
a way of producing. Why? The major question is that why do they want that? It is because of the reason they say that if they make them regular workers and these laws will come into play and they have to give that, this and all. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
The only thing is that even when there used to be huge number of regular workforce, they used to get some surplus. They used to have profit. Even now, when there are less number of regular workforce, they are getting huge profits.
Correct.
This we can see in terms of whenever we look into annual survey of industries that has been published by Government of India. If you look into it,
this is the annual survey of industries, or the ASI as it is known in academic circles, is a major source of data on industrial activity in India.
Yeah, that's right. So in 1981-82, out of net value addition, the share of wages used to be 30.27%. This was in 1981-82, before this pre-liberal, pre-liberalization process date. And now in 2019-20, the latest annual survey data that is available, that has been published by Government of India, it has come down to 18.87%.
Okay.
The share of wages in net value addition. In every 100 rupees of value addition, the share of wages which used to be 30%,
almost one third.
One third has come down to 18%.
Less than 1/5.
1/5. But the share of profit, if you look into it, which was 23% at that time in 81-82, has raised to 38%. 38.71%. Means to say that when the share of wages has reduced so huge, the share of profit has increased. And it is this thing that is actually the reason behind this outsourcing. How do they have done? There are two things. One is through this modernizing their production, means of productions, machineries, huge machineries. Another one is not keeping regular workforce. Because we see in factories, if a regular worker who is termed to be an operator, who is operating the machines there in the production, if he is going to get around 70,000 rupees per month salary, say gross, this contract worker or a casual worker hardly gets 17,000 rupees.
Correct.
This is a huge gap.
Less than 1/4.
Less than 1/4. And there is no direct employer-employee relationship between the principal employer and this contract worker.
Correct.
Because of that reason, what has happened, whenever you go to a factory, to a shop floor, we will see that more number of outsourced, contract, casual, trainee, apprentices will be more, and regular workforce will be very less.
Yes.
And in some factories, you will be astonished to see that it's hardly 10% regular workforce. And now to add it to that, what has happened with this process of labor law codification or labor law reforms and all, now they have introduced another set of workers, that is fixed term employees.
Correct.
And fixed term employees is worse than even contract workers.
Yes.
At least contract workers have got some protection under Contract Labour Regulation Abolition Act 1970. But this fixed term employees does not have anything. They are fixed for 2 years, 3 years, then they are sent out. They are given some salary, some benefit, that's all. Apart from that, they have to go out. And they don't need even contract worker, casual worker and all. To enable for these fixed term employees, what Indian government has done, they have amended Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. in tune with that. Almost all states have amended that.
Correct. Correct.
So now fixed term employees are coming in. Earlier, what we used to see as a trade union leaders, whenever there used to be a standing orders being certified, because law says that standing orders has to be certified. Whenever the factories used to come for a certification of standing orders to a deputy labor commissioner, then they used to call the trade union leaders also.
Correct.
Then the first demand that was to be there from the management side was to have a fixed term employee, a category of employees.
Yes, yeah.
Then we used to oppose, why? Why do you need fixed term employee? We will not allow. We have all through stopped it,
Yeah.
objected it, and we never allowed
Yeah.
the trade union movement of India. But now, Modi regime, as soon as Modi government came, they amended the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act and they have allowed for fixed term employees. And no need for these employees to ask the trade unions.
Yeah. So, Comrade Umesh, these changes, starting with the process of outsourcing, and of which an important component, as you say, is the terms of employment, which comes with this baggage of outsourcing.
Yeah.
In what way does it make trade union activity more difficult?
No, actually, what has happened, see, the principal employer will be somebody,
Yes.
and the contractor will be a middleman. He is going to be an immediate employer.
Correct.
And the worker will be here. And the relationship between the principal employer and worker will not at all be there.
Correct.
See, industrial dispute will start when?
Yeah.
When there is a dispute between an employer and employee,
Correct.
employee and employee, or employer and employer. Now he says, they are no more my employees. Why should I answer it?
Correct.
But Contract Labour Regulation and Abolition Act, in spite of all its weaknesses, it had some sort of link.
Correct.
And it used to say, whenever the contractor does not pay wages, whenever it does not give whatever the service conditions that he is supposed to give, then the responsibility of principal employees comes. Through that, indirectly, we have to get hold of that principal employer.
Yes.
Now with the fixed term employees, even that is not there.
Correct.
This is there. And the total employment relationship will become so fragile.
Yeah.
And it will be so precarious. Once they get organized, they will say that we don't need a contract.
Correct. Correct.
They said that we have winded up the contract and we have sent you out.
Correct.
And the problem comes that then the contractor will say, okay, you come to some other place there where I have got a contract, I will give you a job there.
Correct.
Because this worker will be working in Bangalore in one factory, and this contractor will offer saying that this employer has terminated my contract and I have got contract at Tumkur, you please come to Tumkur. And this fellow, this ordinary worker who has put up here, he can't go to Tumkur.
Correct. Correct.
Because he is a contract labor. He does not even getting some handsome salary also.
Correct.
He is hardly getting 17,000 rupees or sometimes even not 17,000 minimum wages.
Correct.
In Karnataka, highly skilled minimum wages is 14,000 rupees, not even 17,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Wherever they are organized, they are getting some 17,000 or 15,000, 16,000 like that.
Yes.
But wherever they are not organized, they are not getting anything. Even contract labor workers unions also we are organizing.
Yes.
Right, we are organizing them. And somewhere we have organized them. We are demanding for regularization and all. Earlier, it used to be there that whenever contract labor used to get organized and fight, and there is a provision for abolition of contract.
Correct.
Because Contract Labour Act says that in permanent and perennial nature of job,
Correct.
this contract cannot
Correct.
be there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But the problem is that we have to establish that it's a permanent and perennial nature of job.
Correct.
After establishing that, earlier we used to have, see that it's a permanent and perennial nature of job. The contract is abolished, they should be taken on regular laws. But after a Supreme Court judgment in SAIL India case, Steel Authority of India Limited case, that was a provision like that.
Yeah.
They said that even if the contract labor or contract system is abolished, it does not mean that the contract laborers should be taken on regular roles.
Yeah.
The same workers.
Correct. Correct.
The abolition means that you can't employ a worker there as a contract labor.
Correct. Correct.
That's all. You should have a permanent worker. It does not mean that you should regularize the same people.
Yes. Yes.
This is how it interpreted.
Yes.
After that, even whatever the possibilities or chances that we had, even that has diminished. But in spite of that, workers are getting organized.
Yes. So is it fear or is it just the difficulty of getting them organized? what is the main stumbling block to organizing this section of the workforce?
No, actually thing is that what these employers have seen is that they, wherever they entertain or wherever they agree or accept the unionization, the unions will be that of regular workers. And it is hardly 10% organized.
Correct.
They will bargain with them, they will enter into some settlement, and they will be given some benefit.
Correct.
And they will say, you don't talk about trainees, you don't talk about apprentices, you don't talk about contract labor, you don't talk about casual labor.
Correct.
No way, you talk about your union members.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
This is how they keep
Dividing
the workers.
Yes.
But in spite of that, there are some cases. For example, in Coal India,
Yeah.
the coal workers throughout India, they took up the cause of contract workers.
Yeah.
They said that you should give this much of wages to them.
Yes.
Otherwise, will not.
Even here in Toyota,
Yeah.
it was mainly the contract workers. There was a big strike some 7-8 years ago.
It was there.
Yes.
See, every factory has got such a thing.
Yes.
Even that Wistron
Yeah.
that happened
Yes,
in
yes.
that in Narsapura
Yes.
industrial area. There we came to know that almost all workers were contract labor.
Yes.
That contractor never used to give them regularly wages.
Yes.
And labor department was keeping mum.
Yes.
Okay, was blind.
Yeah.
So because of that happened.
Yeah.
And they think that having contract labor is the best way of doing a business and getting more surplus.
Correct.
And getting more
Correct.
huge profits.
Correct.
But now, even contract labor are getting organized.
Yes.
And we are also thinking of organizing them based on industrial area unions and all. We have got some general unions.
Okay.
Like that, for example, in Karnataka, we have got Bangalore South Industrial Workers Union, North Industrial Workers Union,
Correct.
East Industrial Workers Union. There we will have them as members.
Okay.
And through that, we will fight out.
Correct.
So this is how we are trying to organize them, but it is very difficult.
Yes.
It's a Herculean task. We are doing it.
Yeah.
This thing. But the future is that not only contract labor, future will have to organize these trainees as well as these fixed term employees.
Yeah.
We have to go for organizing fixed term employees also.
Yes.
The trade union movement has to take up the challenge that is being posed by the Modi government.
Yeah. How is the problem of organizing fixed term workers compared to the problem of organizing contract workers?
No, the contract workers when we organize, because of the nature of production and inevitability of getting their labor,
Yes.
they used to have some sort of negotiation, discussion.
Some leverage.
We used to have.
Yes.
And because of that law also.
Correct.
But here fixed term employees, what happens now, even we organize now, they will say you are only fixed term employee for 3 years.
Yes.
After 3 years you have to go.
Yeah.
They fear, workers may fear saying that, sir, if we get unionized, after 3 years we may not be continued. Where will we go?
Correct.
That problem is there.
Correct.
But in spite of that, they cannot keep them always not being organized.
Correct.
They will get organized.
Correct.
There's an inbuilt nature of a worker
Yes.
to get unionized.
Yes.
They will do that because it is because of the reason that there is an inbuilt contradiction between this labor as well as capital.
Yeah.
That contradiction cannot be done away.
Correct.
Because of that, they will get organized.
Correct.
And now the challenge before us is that organizing not only contract, casual, trainee like that people along with regular workers, it's a challenge for us to organize even fixed term employees also. We are going for that.
Correct.
We are planning for that. How to do that?
Correct. Can you tell us something about the impact of the pandemic on not just the industrial working class, what happened, but in terms of organizing, trade union activity? Of course, I know that you have initiated relief measures and so on for not just workers but society at large. But how did you meet the challenge of organizing trade union activity during the unprecedented health emergency that was the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, actually that was a unprecedented, very different situation that trade union movement in India for last 100 years had not seen.
Yes.
Not only India, even worldwide.
Yes.
And it was a totally challenging situation for us. And most of the factories were closed. And in India particularly, under Disaster Management Act, Government of India said that even though the factories are closed, the production is not taking place, you are supposed to pay wages. But they did not come up with any particular orders.
Correct.
It was only advisory.
Yes.
Right. Once the advisory was given, workers thought that anyway government has said that under the Disaster Management Act, then they will get salary. Somebody went to court.
Yeah.
And court said that ask the government to come up with their objections to that, whatever that the managements have gone. They did not come up. They did not respond. As a result, they said that there is no mandatory orders
Correct. Correct.
for giving wages and all. In Karnataka, we see that under Disaster Management Act, we forced the government, particularly Labour Secretary, to come up with an order saying that you have to pay wages.
Correct.
The order came on 13th, on 15th it was rescinded. Not only it was rescinded, on 17th the Labour Secretary who ordered it himself was transferred from the Labour Department.
Correct.
This is what we see. And even when courts intervened also, government did not do
Correct.
sufficient thing. And even when the workers wanted to work, they were not allowed to work. Right? Even when managements wanted to produce, they were not allowed to operate. And neither management was responsible nor worker were responsible, but the government was keeping quiet.
Yes.
And even when the factories were opened, the workers were made to go there and they had to face all these problems of pandemic,
Yes.
infections and all.
Yes.
Many workers died.
Yes.
And all these things happened. But the government was such irresponsible behavior that they cared for nothing. And these workers lost. Even because of that was happened, the whole economy came to a standstill and there was a recession, there was a sort of setback to the economy.
Correct.
And at that time what happened, the management also said that we can't pay you. And workers also did not have that pay. And economy was not coming into that rotation that is taking place, that would not happen. And because of that, there was a sort of stagnation
Correct.
in the whole economy.
Yeah.
And that out of that stagnation, even now we have not come out.
Correct. No.
And thousands of small and medium scale factories have closed down.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They have closed down.
No. How did you conduct trade union activity?
At that time, it was a challenging task, but thanks to the social media that we had online meetings.
Correct.
And because of this pandemic and lockdown and all, even now our trade union activities to some extent have become very, what we can say, online.
Yes.
Earlier we used to always have physical meetings.
Yes.
Now we have got virtual meetings.
Yes.
And now sitting from Delhi, I can talk to our union leaders here.
Correct. Correct.
Right? Or Zoom or whatever the social media system is that.
Yeah.
That opportunity we got.
Yes.
And through that we kept them unionized.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what happened, we came to know wherever we had signed settlements and all, they said that because of pandemic economy, there is recession, we could not do, so this year we will not give you a hike.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They said we will not give you a hike. They postponed it. They did not want to give the bonus. All those things happened.
Yeah.
Then we just forced them, said that you have entered into a settlement under Industrial Dispute Act, you can't go away with it. And some places where we have resisted, we have fought, we have got back.
Okay.
Where we could not, we have lost. And even in Karnataka, around 5,000 plus applications came to Labour Department, to a task force, saying that they are not paying wages, they have sent us out, they have removed them from job and all. At the same, even during the pandemic period also, we had such a huge demonstrations, protests and going on.
Yeah.
The day on which Parliament, Rajya Sabha accepted that 3 labour codes.
Yes.
It was on 22nd, I think, September 2020, 23rd or 22nd. Same day we had huge rally in Bangalore.
Yeah.
During pandemic, COVID. On 26th of November, we had a huge strike in which more than 20 crore workers participated.
Correct.
And this is how we responded to this irresponsible behavior of government and the way the managements were doing that. That's it.
You see, one of the consequences perhaps of liberalization has been the decline of manufacturing in the last couple of decades, stagnant or declining in fact. This has come because of the fall in not just private investment but also the squeeze on public investment in capacity. So manufacturing has slowed down significantly, and what has hit this slowdown meant in terms of the nature of collective bargaining that the industrial working class has in India.
See, what has happened in this process, what we see is that, particularly in India, the government says that Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India, Skill India, Stand Up India, and what not Indias they have come up with those slogans. Right? In spite of all those slogans, this is the first time that in 2019-20, according to annual survey of industries, we see that year on year rate of growth in number of factories,
Yes.
growth in employment, growth in production, growth in productivity, growth in terms of net value addition, growth in terms of input-output ratio, and everything. The growth in terms of rate of increase of wages, growth in terms of even profit. That I told now, profit
Correct,
has increased.
correct.
Even that growth rate has come down.
Yes, absolutely.
It has come down.
Yes.
Why is it so? It is because of the reason, not because of COVID only. Because COVID lockdown
Yes.
came in 2020.
Yes.
This survey is of 2019-20.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
It is because of the reason that this neoliberal project that they have got of a capitalism, it's in a systemic crisis.
Yeah.
And this crisis is in a dead end. They cannot come out.
Yes.
Now the way that the solution that they have come out is that the technology of North
Correct.
and labor of South. They bring the technology from North, and South will be very eager to have investment. They just like in government of Karnataka coming with global investors meet or
Correct.
invest Karnataka.
Correct.
They will bring and they will invest here, and they will use this cheap labor and make some profit like that. But in spite of that, we see that even in America, even in European nations, even in almost all advanced economies also, this growth rates has come down.
Yes.
Similarly, India has also, we are seeing that.
So what is the impact on the working class in terms of because of this slowdown? Has this sort of impacted the leverage that labor has in terms of collective bargaining?
No, definitely it is there. Okay. But at the same time, wherever they have resisted,
Yes.
they have organized, they have collectively fought.
Yes.
There we see that there is a regime change also
Yes.
politically.
Yeah.
Just like in Latin American nations. But wherever they could not fight,
Yeah.
there we see that the whole economy has taken rightward shift. Not only rightward shift, even politics has taken outward shift, and governance has taken rightward shift. And because of that, we see that even among the working class, they are just seeing to it that working class get divided on several issues: language, caste, religion, place. No,
Identity politics.
identity politics
Yes.
is also there. But wherever we have fought, there we see that just like in Latin American nations, that there is a political regime change also. And because of that, neoliberalism has been put to some sort of this one stop.
Yes. While it is understandable that the effects of the economic crisis has engaged the attention of trade unions all over the world, not just in India, what specific steps have been taken by the CITU or planned to take in the days ahead to reinforce the ideological training of its rank and file in order to raise political consciousness?
No,
Given that we are under a regime which is, committed to right-wing fundamentalism.
yeah, actually the thing is that in India, if you look into a modern manufacturing sector in which 80% is unorganized within organized sector.
Correct.
Unorganized means
Yes.
to whom this labor laws does not apply.
Yes.
Right, because with power 10 workers, without power 20 workers is what the definition of
Organized.
factory is. For them, this all labor laws applies. So 80% of the workers in the organized sector, manufacturing sector, is unorganized in terms. Within organized, there is an unorganized sector. And now another way of extracting more surplus that they are seeing is that, see, in Karnataka, I will tell you, and for an example, when this minimum wages was raised during earlier Congress regime, because we were demanding for that, they raised the minimum wages, and earlier this minimum wages we had only 3 zones. First zone was a BBMP area. The second zone was other than BBMP, other corporations. Third zone was other than these 2 zones.
Correct.
Now they came up with the fourth zone. Fourth zone is BBMP, other corporations other than BBMP, then district centers. Fourth one is apart from this.
Correct.
Fourth zone, 9,000 rupees minimum wages.
Yes.
So because of that, what happened? All these factories started moving towards rural areas.
Correct. Correct.
And they projected it saying that no, we are seeing that Karnataka will develop
Yes.
always. We don't want it to be only in cities.
Correct.
But actually the reason was this surplus.
Correct.
5,000 rupees less minimum wages to a rural area factory.
Correct.
Like that, these factories went to rural areas. Because of that, what has happened in rural areas?
What kind of factories are these? Just I mean,
See, for
some of the
garments,
yes,
garments.
garments.
And now you see, whatever the factories we had in Bangalore city, now they have moved on to Ramnagar,
Yes,
Biddi,
yes, yes.
and their Davuspet,
Yes, yes.
Shira, Tumkur
Yes.
Road, like
Yes,
that.
Yes, yes,
They are in 4th zone.
yes. Yeah.
So they can give less minimum wages and get more production like that.
For the same activity,
Yeah,
for the
less.
same product.
Just because they are going to rural areas.
Yes.
Because that 4th zone provision was
Same
given them.
work. Yeah.
So because of that, the whole share in the manufacturing in rural area is increasing throughout India.
Correct. Correct.
Right?
Correct. What is characterized as rural?
Rural. So they say that rural development is taking place there. And we are bringing industry to the rural areas.
Correct.
Like that. But because of that, they are getting huge surplus.
Correct.
At the same time, because of that reason, whatever the feudal hangover that we had in rural India is also impacting upon the trade union among the workers.
Okay.
And because of that, this identity politics is getting strengthened.
Okay. Okay.
In rural areas, what we see,
Correct.
right?
Correct. Correct.
And the same thing is reflected in factories also, in shop floors also.
Okay.
So this challenge
So
of
casteism and all.
caste divisions, religion divisions,
Yes.
all of this. So this is leading to the percolation of this Hindutva ideology among the workers also.
Yes.
This is also there. Actually, the thing is that modern working class is supposed to be more secular.
Yes.
It will always cut across caste, religion and every divisions.
Yeah.
By nature, it is supposed to be there. But because of this reason, it is happening so. Because India, we know that most of the area is from rural areas.
Correct.
Like this.
Correct.
So at the same time, we know that in spite of this rural share in manufacturing sector increasing, right, and having organized and unorganized both in that, this whatever the influence of right-wing forces or casteist forces among these workers is increasing, and it's a challenge.
But even in the urban areas, it is a challenge.
It is a challenge.
For example,
it's a challenge.
communalism.
It's a challenge. The problem for us was that, see, that's what we said in our conference, saying that we gave a slogan, reach the unreached. Intensify the struggles.
Correct.
Intensify the struggles to change the policies.
Yeah.
This was the slogan that we gave when we were in Kannur conference. And with that slogan we went. And all through we used to have our struggles on these economic issues. And because of that, the unrest that they have got, or opposition that they have got to the economic issues, has been misused
Yes.
by right-wing forces.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And here there is some disconnect between our trade union movement and our struggle ideologically against right-wing forces.
Correct.
And now, because of that only, in this particular conference, our slogan is to unify the class,
Yes.
defeat communal forces.
Yeah.
Not only communal, divisive forces.
Yes.
This is the slogan.
Correct.
Unify the class, defeat divisive forces, right?
Yeah.
Defeat neoliberal policies and defeat imperialist mechanizations.
Correct.
This is the slogan.
Correct.
And we are not only economic issues, at the same time we have to take up these issues of ideological onslaught. Because this right-wing offensive that is there is a right-wing offensive which is in support of neoliberalism. And we as a trade union, while unifying the class, we have to have this ideological content in us.
Yeah.
And this is an ideological struggle that we have to
Yeah.
fight. We have to wage it.
Yeah.
There is no shortcut for that.
Yes, yes. But I mean, are you finding the working class receptive to this?
Definitely, definitely.
Because of the
See, in 2019 elections, the same workers in Bangalore city and suburbs and peripheral area who voted in huge way to BJP, the same workers came out on streets in 2020,
correct,
January 8th strike.
correct.
We saw a huge success of that strike. Almost all industrial areas were closed.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And again during pandemic we saw, in November 26th we had another strike
Yeah.
within a year.
Yeah, correct.
But the same workers voted for BJP
Yeah.
in 2019. In 2020 they came out.
Yes.
And again now in 2022, March 28, 29,
Yeah.
we had a huge success
Yeah.
of strikes.
Correct.
So workers are more particularly assertive on our economic issues.
Correct.
At the same time, we have to make it more assertive in terms of ideological also
Yeah.
against this divisive forces.
Correct. Yeah.
This challenge is there before
Yes.
us.
Yes.
So now the challenge before us is not only fighting neoliberalism, the challenge before us is also to fight the divisive forces.
Right.
It's a twin challenge that is there.
Yeah.
And it appears to be a twin challenge, but at the same time we know that these divisive forces all through and even now and even in future will stand in support of this neoliberalism.
Correct.
It's for neoliberalism that the divisive forces
Correct.
are getting strengthened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Comrade Umesh.
Yeah.
It has been an engaging discussion. Thank
No,
you.
now actually I will wind up it with the slogan that we are going to give. Last in our 16th conference we said that raise the struggles to the extent of resistance and defiance. In the last 3 years we saw that the resistance has been mounted so much that in spite of having huge majority in parliament, Modi government could not implement the labor codes that it brought.
Yeah.
For last 3 years we have resisted it.
Yes. Yes.
For last 2 years we have resisted 3 codes. For last 3 years we have resisted 1 code, that wage
Yeah.
code. And similarly our peasants have resisted and defied with the help of workers that all 3 formulas are repealed.
Yeah.
So this slogan of the 8-16 conference for resistance and defiance has been fully materialized, met by our Indian working class
Yeah.
and peasantry. And now our slogan is going to be go for combative struggles. This is what the slogan that we are formulating. We will discuss in this.
Yeah.
We will formulate that. And in days to come, we are going to go for a combative struggle. And this combative struggle will help us to organize modern manufacturing sector workers.